Welcome everybody to the Chaska Human Rights Commission. Today is Thursday, September 27th. And we have a small group tonight, but we will get started. Nate, can you call the roll?
Sure. Commissioner Carlson.
Present.
Commissioner Colhap.
Here.
Commissioner Leggett is absent. Commissioner Dunbar is absent. Commissioner Welvert.
Here.
Commissioner Kim.
Here.
Commissioner Haga is absent. Commissioner White.
Here.
And Commissioner Bean is also absent.
Okay. Well, we got a short agenda tonight as well. Has everyone had a chance to look through it? Okay, I just want to make a change on 6C. I have not heard back from Integrated Arts Academy yet from following up with them, so we can move that till next meeting, and hopefully I'll hear some more information about that.
With that change, I move for adoption.
I second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, approved. The agenda is now adopted, and we'll move on to our open forum and guest presentation. Tonight, we do have a guest here. His name is David Hunt, and he is the first assistant county attorney for Carver County, but he's here tonight to talk to us about the Veterans Court. So welcome.
Thank you.
Welcome.
Thank you, Commissioners. It's my privilege to be here to address you, and it's my privilege to share some things about Carver County's Veterans Court. And I want to thank Commissioner Colhap for personally inviting me to be here. Again, it's a great privilege. Carver County's Veterans Court serves troubled veterans who come in the criminal justice system charged with crimes that occur in Carver County. Veterans Court, as you can see, is a problem-solving court. It's designed to help veterans that come into criminal court, those veterans that want to have help with alcohol problems, drug problems, or mental health problems. It's different than traditional court where an offender comes in and once convicted of a charge is assigned a probation officer, maybe does some jail time, does some probation, and is helped by the court system in that fashion, that traditional fashion, but doesn't get the individual attention that he or she might get in Veterans Court. That's one of the big differences. We're very hands-on, very intense in the treatment of alcohol problems, drug problems, and mental health problems of the clients that come before us. That's, in a nutshell, what we're all about. In my opinion, Veterans Court is very important because we have a large population of military veterans in Carver County. You know, throughout the country and the state, there's a lot of veterans, and many of them are well-adjusted, doing just great. But as you know from the media and news reports, a lot of folks come back from service not doing so well, suffering from PTSD, suffering from emotional trauma that they experienced overseas. And too often, those troubled vets commit crimes and fall into the criminal justice system. And so Veterans Court is designed to help those fallen soldiers, so to speak, the ones that have problems that need help. We've got about 5,000 military vets living here in Carver County, 410,000 in Minnesota alone. And as I said, many need help. 2 million have served in Iraq and Afghanistan. 1 in 5 of those military members that have served over there suffer PTSD. In 63% of the folks that serve in combat or experience combat develop drinking problems or other chemical dependency problems. And like, as I said, those folks come back, and too often they commit crimes, and they come into criminal court here in Carver County, and anywhere in the country really. But They come into court for DWIs, domestic violence, drug crimes, disorderly conducts, child neglect, those types of crimes. And what we do in Veterans Court, if the veteran is willing to participate, we take them in, assess their problems, assess the crime that they committed, try to determine what happened, and try to determine if we can help through intensive probation, intensive therapy. In my opinion, after doing this for about 4 years, I think we're real successful. And I'll show you some numbers on the success rate we've had. And so my goal today is to not belabor the success, but just to spread the word to folks like you who have important positions, folks like you who are concerned about civil rights and human beings. Spread the word about Veterans Court and what it does, because maybe you can help someone to get into Veterans Court, or maybe you can tell someone that could benefit from them, and that's a great thing. So that's why I'm here tonight, and again, it's a great honor and privilege to do that and to share this word, to share these words. Homelessness contributes to the crime problem with veterans. 620 veterans are going to be homeless tonight, 250 in the Twin City metro area. I don't know how many in Carver County, but there'll be some out there tonight. 13% of the homeless population is military vets. Our clients, let me get to some specifics about who we've served, and I'll give you a sense of the mission that we have and the things that we've been able to do. I'm going to call her Helen. That's not her real name, but she came into our program, a military veteran charged with DWI. Her life was going down the tube real quick. She had a traumatic brain injury unrelated to her military service, but was partially disabled from that, couldn't keep a job, couldn't keep housing, couldn't keep off of alcohol, lots of DWIs in her past, very low self-esteem, very poor relationships with men in her life, and things were just unraveling. I was not mentally stable. I was suicidal. I was staying in someone's house. I was in an awful living situation. And looking at jail, and I think was probably her 4th or 5th DWI over her lifetime. She came into Vets Court, and we had great success with Helen. John served in the U.S. Navy for 6 years. Great guy. Nice to be around, but had a problem with alcohol. History of fights and property crimes on his record. His ex-wife in serious, serious legal trouble at this point in time. And what he did to get into Veterans Court was get really drunk one day at a Twins game and came home and became suicidal in front of his new girlfriend and her children, and put a loaded gun to his head in front of the teenagers. Luckily, one of them wrestled the gun away and got it from John, and he didn't shoot anyone, didn't shoot himself, but he endangered them in his drunken state. He was going to prison on that charge, felon in possession of a handgun. Minnesota, that brings a 5-year mandatory prison sentence. We got him into Vets Court because he was a good candidate, I thought, and he was willing to try, and people stood up for him and said, no, this guy deserves a chance. And so we bypassed the prison route with him. He did a little bit of jail and then came out of the program with a misdemeanor level conviction instead of the felony charge on this, because he succeeded. Cleaned up the alcoholism, got some treatment, regained some stability, and improved his life. And it was a great honor to help somebody like that who had served our country and given a lot to us as a soldier and now needed help from us. And so we were more than willing to give him that help. Here's what we provide. Alcohol and drug treatment. Everything from outpatient to inpatient services, 12-step. We can do medical interventions. We're treating one fellow in the program has a heroin addiction. We're treating him with medications related to the cravings of heroin. I can't think of the name of the drug off the top of my head. Another fellow has a severe alcohol problem, felony DWI. He's on a medication that helps him with cravings with alcohol. But it's not just medication that we provide, and we don't do that for every client. Those two need it. But what we provide is stability, accountability. We assign a probation officer that checks in with these clients several times a week. We demand random alcohol and drug testing of the clients to be sure that they're not using. If they mess up and they use alcohol or drugs, we confront them right away in court and then get them assessed and back into treatment if they need it. The environment in court is, there's several clients, there's 10, and then members of the public are sometimes present, and then the staffing team is all present. And we try to support these clients by giving them praise and rewards when they do well. They come in every 2 weeks for these court hearings generally. And we have a backdrop of support with these folks that are there. Judge Kane is remarkable in the compassion she shows, but also the sternness too. I mean, we don't forgive the crimes that they've committed. We hold them accountable, but it's more of a tough love approach, more than you'd get in general criminal court. One of the biggest, I think, and you can see the programs that we provide or the services we provide, but maybe the last one is probably the most important. Every client, and we've got about 10 in the program right now, every client is assigned a citizen mentor. The mentor is a retired military person, or in some cases an active military person, that serves as a buddy to the clients in the court system. And it serves as a buddy and helps them and kind of backs them up. They're not on the staffing team. The team is Judge Kane, a public defender, probation officers, treatment people, myself as the prosecutor. They're not on that team, and so they're not one of us. They're more a confidant and a supporter for the client. And that's, I think, one of the reasons we're so successful is that we provide these mentors to help them in the clients in their daily life, to back them up if they need someone to talk to. There's probably been a couple situations where the client might call the mentor, maybe late at night, and say, I got to have a drink. I can't take it anymore. My alcoholism is getting the better of me. You got to talk me through the next half hour to get me to not drink. And the mentor will provide that. It's like an AA sponsor. And the mentors are just volunteers. There's just folks that they're not paid. They're doing this out of the goodness of their heart. I can't say enough about the service and the commitment they provided for our program. Okay, here's Helen now. She was our first graduate. Got treatment for the TBI. Sober since 2014. Better self-esteem. She found housing. Got out of the bad relationship that she was in. She's working or volunteering to the capacity that she has because she does have a disability, but she's doing great. Comes back every once in a while and shows that cheerful smile, which is great for us to see on the team, that somebody's succeeding. And so she's doing a great one. She was our first graduate. Can't be more proud of her. John. Here's John speaking at the state capitol in May. There was a big rally for treatment courts, drug courts, veterans courts. John got up there and in a shaky voice, never had spoken public and not before 100 people, was able to get out that vets court helped him. He's now sober. He has a steady job. He'd be in prison right now if it wasn't for vets court because of that charge. But we were happy to help him. Clear-headed. He talked about now being a mentor to 3 kids that live in his neighborhood, and spoke at the state capitol. It was really moving just because, not so much what he said, but just the fact that this guy got up there. And he's a convicted felon, but here he is addressing legislators and the public and other people interested in treatment court, doing a great job. Vets court. I was a fallen soldier down. They helped me up. That was one of the messages I got from it. It was a good moment. Our goals, it's to promote public safety with the clients, but support them as they struggle with alcohol, drugs, or mental health problems. Give them services, provide support, but make them accountable for what they do, and make sure that they're towing the line, and that they're setting up healthy choices in their life, that they're setting up better relationships, getting jobs, finishing their education. Like I said, holding each client accountable for their criminal conduct, but also supporting them. The bottom line is to return to these troubled veterans the level of pride and honor they knew as soldiers. And that's kind of lofty, but I think we've done it in some cases to some extent, and so I couldn't be more proud. Typical charges, as I said, these are folks with DWIs, drug possession, child neglect, unfortunately. 2 clients, one that was passed out drunk with an infant in the crib and was neglecting the infant because she was a .30 and passed out. We got her sober, and we got her straightened out. She failed later. She had more alcohol problems, but for 2 years, she was sober and she did well. She's back on her feet, doing well now, I'm told, so at least we helped at that point in time, and we intervened when we needed to. The child was fine, and the family received services through our court system. Driving infractions, lots of assaults, disorderly conduct type cases. Here's our mentors, a couple of them anyway. We've got now 20 mentors. We only have 10 clients, so it's a great problem to have. Too many mentors, too many volunteers, but we couldn't be more grateful. It's a great system. And again, these are just folks that they've served in the military and they're still giving. They're still serving because they're volunteering now with our court system. 28 participants to date, 15 have graduated, 9 in the program now, 3 that dropped out, 1 that died in the program. Our recidivism rate post-graduation is 2. So 2 of our graduates have committed crimes since graduating. Nothing serious, but they committed crimes. But 26 have succeeded and to date don't have any new criminal charges, and we're real pleased with that result. The 1 death, this is a sad moment. I'm going to call him Ronnie. He died of a drug overdose while in our program, and so we don't always succeed. And this guy was a special ops U.S. Army soldier, one of the decorated veteran, combat veteran, Purple Heart. He received a Silver Star for bravery in combat. He was wounded in the Black Hawk Down rescue mission. I don't know if you've seen the movie from the late 80s, but he was one of the rescuers in that mission. He was wounded in that mission. Big, strong, physical guy, enormous, 6'2", just huge, powerful, weightlifter in his spare time. This guy survived the Pentagon attack at 9/11. He was in the basement. He told us a story one day in court. Down there, he'd been overseas in the Middle East, came back. He's in the Pentagon with some of his men, the place where you might be the safest in the world, in the basement of the Pentagon, and boom, the jet crashes in and there's smoke and fire, and he drags people out of there. Just a hero, very brave guy. But he couldn't beat addiction to prescription painkiller, to pain medication, and that's what brought him down. So he had got hooked on pain medications, mostly probably due to the injuries he received in combat, the wounds, and maybe the trauma probably afflicted him too, and I'm sure that contributed to the drug addiction. But he would get stopped once in a while by Chaska police or Carver County sheriffs driving under the influence of prescription narcotics, and they'd either arrest him or they'd take him home and make sure he didn't drive. But he couldn't beat those things. The guy survived, I don't know how many deadly missions overseas and how many enemy soldiers he survived, but he could not survive that terrible addiction he had to painkillers, and that's what brought Ronnie down in the end. He was buried in Arlington Cemetery this year, which is an honor bestowed to senators, the highest decorated soldiers, but he earned that through the combat missions that he survived and did. And so we're proud of his record, but so sad that he couldn't make it and we couldn't give more help to him. So it's a tough road for all these folks. We're doing the best we can. And what you can do is, I guess, just spread the good word about this and be supportive in any way that you can with the program. The team, and it cut me off if I'm getting past my 15 because I know we want to keep it short. We've got a judge.
We probably will stop soon because I'm sure we have a couple of questions for you too.
Yeah, here's our team. We've got a prosecutor, myself, probation, public defender, a judge, some treatment people. We staff the cases every 2 weeks, and then we go to court in the afternoon. Award a judge's coin. It's a ceremony at the end when the people graduate. It's a military tradition, the commander's coin. It's a job well done, and the commander shakes the hand of the soldier receiving the coin and passes it on. Well, we adopted it to a judge's coin, and Judge Kane will shake the graduate's hand and pass the coin on. It's just, you know, a ceremony, but I think it means a lot to folks. Other veterans courts in Minnesota, we're not alone. Mark Metz, the county attorney, it was his idea in 2012 to start here, and he got the ball rolling, and we've been running ever since 2014. Come and watch if you want. Second and fourth Mondays of each month, 1:30 to 3, courtroom 3 at the courthouse. There's the hearings in October. They're open to the public, so feel free to come if you want to. Thanks. My card is here. If after I leave you have questions or follow-up, I've got some brochures too. If you want more information, I'm happy to leave those too. But thank you, commissioners. Thank you for your attention. And any questions, I'll try to answer.
Thank you. I had a couple questions
Yes.
that go together, but I was wondering, at what point in the legal process do people get recommended to Veterans Court? And if people know about it, can they request it?
Yeah, Commissioner Welvert's question is about getting involved in what time and how do you get involved. We try to get the clients involved early on, right after they've been charged. In fact, if they've been arrested and they're in the jail, most of the time we have a representative there to talk about Veterans Court to the arrested defendant and give them information. We try not to push it on them because it's a voluntary thing, and every defendant that's arrested has civil rights under the Constitution to be presumed innocent and have their day in court. Veterans Court is, is for clients that have admitted their guilt or have come in and admitted their guilt, and so we don't want to force that on anybody. Once they're involved in the system, I think your question was, yeah, if somebody's at the pretrial stage, they could opt in. And we screen the case, make sure the offense needs to occur in Carver County. The client needs to be a resident of Carver County or just outside of our geographical boundary. We do that because the probation officers do home visits, and we don't want them driving, long distances to other counties to try to check on their clients. So we need them kind of close here. And then generally, any type of offense, there's a few that I won't let into the program, murders, sexual assaults, I won't let generally those clients come in. I would consider homicide charges if it was a manslaughter, some sort of accidental situation. I'd consider that. The sexual assault, probably not. But everything else, I'll consider giving the presumptive eligibility to the client.
Dave, I want to thank you for your time coming here today. I really appreciate it. I know that you're busy with work, and coming here afterwards to inform us of this is really, really appreciated. You and I had an opportunity to work together many years ago.
Yep. Many years ago.
And this was at the St. Paul City Attorney's Office. And one of the things that has been ingrained in me since that time is that prosecutors have actually a duty to do justice. That is one of the prosecutorial functions, as you well know. And I believe that this fits very well with that duty to do justice. And probably, my guess would be this would be the last line of support that a lot of people, veterans, receive in their lives. So I'm really glad to see this happening in our town, in Carver County, and I wish you the best with it.
Thank you, Commissioner Kim. Yeah, thank you. It is the last line of support for a lot of these folks, but it's also been my experience that a couple of them say, my family is now with me. They back me now because I've been sober for 18 months or whatever it is, and now I'm trying, and they know I'm trying. So once in a while we get clients that say that, that's very affirming. But you're right, a lot of them have nowhere to go, and this is the last bastion for them. And again, we're happy to provide the help, when they want it and when they're willing to do it. So thank you. Yes, Commissioner Leggett.
Flip back to the screen with the dates on it. Yeah.
Sure.
And then I wanted to ask, So unless somebody's convicted of a crime, they're not able to partake in any of your services for veterans?
The question is, unless they're not convicted, they can't participate.
Well, unless they commit a crime,
Yeah.
they're not eligible
Yeah,
for your services.
Yeah, it's only, yeah, you have to be charged with the crime and then to get into the program. And I don't think I pointed this out, this is important. With a good percentage of the cases, we forgive the charges in the end if they're successful. So we'll dismiss the charge. Not every client, but for most charges, we'll do that if they can get through the program. But yeah, it's only people charged with crimes, yeah.
And then, how many counties have this?
I think we're the 8th or 9th county in the state to have it.
So it's still pretty new.
Yeah, it's pretty new. There's one or two jurisdictions that are multi-county, and so we could say there's maybe 10 or 12 counties that are involved, but there's 8 veterans courts that I'm aware of. We're trying to expand to other first district counties. So we're in the first judicial district, which is I think 7 counties. And so we've generally only had Carver County defendants, but we now have one LeSueur County defendant in our program. We're trying to reach out to the other counties to see if they'll send us clients, because we're happy to take them in. But, you know, change is slow, and it's, you know, we're getting there. And I think the more success we have, the more numbers we'll get that way.
You talked about the homeless vets and how prevalent that is, and we're focusing as a commission this year kind of on homelessness in the area. What kind of opportunities do you offer when you come across people that are homeless?
We can provide either through the VA or private agencies some temporary housing. The VA is actually, in my experience, has been really good with getting housing to people that are eligible for VA benefits, but not every defendant is eligible for VA benefits. And I don't know the distinction exactly, but we have, you know, we're half and half. Half are VA eligible and the other half are not. So we rely on other private agencies through social services to find housing. We've been fortunate to have generous benefactors in the community that'll pony up some money and contribute to rent we'll set that up through the probation department or some other agency to try to get some temporary housing. So we can do it that way. We're probably fortunate in Carver County, we don't have a lot of homeless vets. Minneapolis or Hennepin and Ramsey, it's terrible there. I think in Vets Court, I guess many clients are homeless, but of our current clients right now, I can only think of one that was actively homeless, and I'm happy to say he has now found a good apartment. It sounds like he's got his living situation squared away, so that's good, but yeah.
Madam Chair, the Carver County Community Development has 3 units set aside in Carver County for homeless vets. So just for your information, that carries a subsidy with them.
Yeah,
But I
when
have
the
a,
CDA came, they had talked about that a little bit.
that is correct.
Yeah.
And I have a question, sir.
Sure.
And perhaps this shows my naivety, but when one is arrested, is a question that's given to the person being arrested, are you a veteran of the services? I'm curious as
Yep.
to how a person would be aware, or if it's just standard that once arrested, you get asked that question.
Yeah, Commissioner Carlson, it's a good question, and it's fraught with some problems and some issues. We've been asking law enforcement in the county, the Chaska Police and the Sheriff's Office, to ask an arrestee if he or she is a military veteran. Not to incriminate them in any way regarding the crime, but just for purposes of Vets Court, just to find out. And certainly if the client doesn't want, the defendant doesn't want to answer that question, he or she doesn't need to answer it. And a lot of them don't. They don't want to answer that question. And then once they get to the jail, informally, the staff may ask, were you a military veteran again? And I should back up and say, you have Miranda rights when you're arrested and the right to remain silent, and the arrestee is told that. And so certainly, if he or she wanted to remain silent, they're not going to be forced to answer that veteran's question. But it's touchy, as you can see, because it does fall on your right to remain silent, that's guaranteed by the Constitution. And so, it's a little touchy. Yeah.
I recently had the opportunity to visit our jail here in Carver County, and I didn't see any references or any signs saying, if you're a veteran, hold up your hand because you could get services.
Yeah, I don't think there's a sign. No, I think there's literature. Nikki Kettle is the jail reentry coordinator. She provides assistance to inmates that come in, and she'll interview as many as she can, and she gets to most of the arrestees, and she'll bring up Veterans Court and mention that.
Right.
But yeah, there's no sign or anything like that. Yes, Commissioner.
Let's say I've been in jail for 30 days, and I've suddenly found out that Veterans Court exists. Is there a chance I can have my sentence reduced? And if I say I'd like to be a member of the Veterans Court?
Yep. Yeah, we would look at your application, so to speak, and if you qualified and you wanted to do it, and we need to know that you have an alcohol or drug or mental health problem, first off, and that you want help with that. If you say, I want help, then yeah, even if you've been in for 30 days and you're expecting a sentence, we'd take you in if you want to do it.
And reduce my sentence?
Yeah, we can, yep, yeah, it's a little tricky legally to do that, and we want you'd have to do the program, it's 12 to 18 months, and we'd put you through your paces. But let's say you succeeded and you stopped drinking, or if you had just a mental health problem and you got services for that, and you were trying to improve, and your therapist said, yeah, she's doing well, she's really trying to beat whatever issue she has, then you'd graduate, and yeah, we could reduce the level of your charge then. Yeah, Mark Metz is the county attorney here, and he's authorized me to make those type of decisions, and Judge Kane, if I recommended, she generally would go along with such a reduction.
Could it be posted out at the courthouse or jail?
I'm going to ask. Now that you both brought that up, yeah, I'm going to ask. I don't know if there's regulations in the jail. I know they're pretty strict on their policies. Yeah. A sign would be helpful, and again, we don't want to push this on anybody because, and I don't want to tempt. One of the issues that I think exists, and I don't know that it's a big problem, but my fear is that we would get clients that are willing to do the program and forsake their rights to trial and forsake their rights to the presumption of innocence because they want to get their charges reduced and then just jump in for that reason. And we don't want that. We want the woman or the man that says, look, I can't handle my alcoholism anymore. I need your help. And the charge isn't that important to me. I just want your help. I want to do it. And so, I don't want to push it too hard. But a sign, if it was innocuous and it just said, if you're interested in Vets Court, and call this number, and that would, I think it's a great idea. I'll check into that.
Aside from letting people that we know about this, is there anything else you think that the Human Rights Commission could be of help somehow with this?
No, not specifically. I think you just spread the word and come and watch court if you want. Now that I think about it, at the state capitol, there's going to be legislation to give more money to veterans courts and treatment courts, generally drug courts, alcohol courts. And you could support that way too through our legislators. We don't have a grant to fund this court. We just have the agencies that are involved, the probation department, community corrections, my office, Judge Kane, all those people volunteer. This is extra work for all the staff members in the program. There's no grant to pay, you know, a half-time public defender, a half-time prosecutor to do this. And so those agencies have just ponied up a body to do this. So we don't have any funding that way. But we're succeeding, and we did get a grant to hire a part-time coordinator, somebody that helps run it, does the administrative part, because we were struggling with those responsibilities. There's just so many tasks. So we did get a grant through the state for that, which is great, and so that's helped a lot. But otherwise, you know, there isn't a lot of money out there for programs such as ours, but it could happen, you know, through legislation. So that, I guess that's one more thing you could help us with, yeah.
Excellent.
Well, I thank you again so much
Well,
for
thank
coming,
you.
because I really had never heard of it, and when Barbara had brought this to our attention, we were all very interested in hearing more about the program, and we thank you for what you're doing.
Yeah, thank you, Commissioner. Thank you, other commissioners.
Thank you.
It's a real privilege.
Thank you.
And, Dave, could we maybe get a copy of the PowerPoint
Sure,
sent to
yeah, I'd be
us?
happy to, yeah,
Okay.
yeah, sir.
I have your card, so
You have
I'll
my
send
card?
you an email.
Can you send me an
yeah.
email, please, and then
Yeah.
I'll remember to do it, yeah, thanks.
Thank you.
Okay.
Dave, thank you.
Okay, before we move on, I'd like to welcome Donzel and Judy. We're glad you got here.
Thank you.
So,
You're sitting in the.
I've got your, yeah, I've got your name tag switched up.
I mean, Donzel and Judy.
Vice chair sits next to the chair.
Yeah, well, I didn't want to inject.
Apologize for being late.
That's okay, we're glad
Do
you're
you
here.
sleep on the plane? Do you sleep on the plane?
While you're helping with that, I'm gonna
Really.
Okay,
But I tried.
thanks, Mike.
you betcha.
Try to get like two.
Two birds with one
Taking an
stone.
intermission.
Okay, thanks.
Commissioner Dunbar, D&D.
DD.
Can I borrow your pen?
Oh, yeah.
Did you watch a movie on the plane?
Okay, yep, see you, thanks.
Thanks, Mark. Or, thanks, David.
Thanks again, Dave.
Thank you.
Yeah, good to see you, Dave.
All right, so everyone has the minutes from the last meeting in front of them. Are there any changes or additions that we need from last month?
Madam Chair, I move for approval of the minutes of August 23rd, 2018 meeting.
I second.
All in favor?
Aye.
I abstained, I was absent last meeting.
Okay, opposed? And Robert abstains.
Yes.
All right, the minutes from the August 23rd meeting are approved. And we can move on to the treasurer's report. Nate?
All right. Since our last meeting in August, we have had no new expenditures, so our balance remains the same as noted in the previous meeting minutes, $1,271.73.
Okay. That job's getting boring now, isn't it?
Well, it's all on you to make it exciting for me, so. We've got some options later in the meeting.
Okay. And also, just so you two know, we crossed off item C. We're gonna move it to a different meeting for 6C in old business. Okay. Okay, so moving on, this Saturday is the downtown block party. There are 2 people who said they can volunteer for an hour at the booth?
Yes, yep.
We
So,
had-
so far we've had Commissioner Colhap said that she could be available from, I think it was noon to 1. And then, was it,
Ellen, I-
yeah. Commissioner Bean said that she could be available from 1 to 2. So the event is from noon until 5, so that would give us 2 of the 5 hours of coverage. You know, my thought is that if you all think that's enough coverage, you want to proceed, we can do that. We could use materials that were used for the River City Days booth and, you know, bring those out and make them available and, you know, for those couple of hours have that there. You know, I guess the other option would be to say that, well, you know, maybe 2 hours isn't sufficient, and you know, since we can't cover more, then we wouldn't want to hold the booth. So what I've done is I've let the block party folks know that you're all going to talk about this tonight, make a decision as to whether the booth should be covered or not. They're prepared to accommodate, and if the booth isn't there, you know, that's okay as well. It's not going to leave a gaping hole or anything like that in their programming. Certainly they're, you know, happy to have you there and welcome your presence, but understand it's got to be covered too. So that's the status. I don't really know that I have a strong recommendation either way. I guess I'd look to you all to have that discussion, and you know, I'm curious to know what your thoughts are.
First of all, is anyone else available for an hour or so on Saturday? I know my schedule is still very up in the air for this weekend, so I can't commit to it. I might stop down, but I couldn't give a time that I could be there for sure.
I have my grandson all weekend. That day, the League of Women Voters is having a gala celebrating their 50 years in existence, and I said I would go. And that's
Okay.
at 2 o'clock, I would leave.
Okay.
So it looks like there's 2 people for sure who could be at the booth if
Correct.
we do it. So now we need to decide
Yeah.
if we think that's worth it for 2 hours.
Could someone describe the block party? I don't think I was there last year. So
Sure.
what is actually happening? What is the booth for?
Excuse me. So the Downtown Chaska Block Party it's an event that's led, last year it was more of a grand opening of 2nd Street. So last year 2nd Street was, you know, one of the big public works projects for the city of the year. The street was closed for much of the summer, and all of the, you know, the great streetscaping that you see there today was installed. And so it was an opportunity to kind of do a grand opening and, you know, celebrate the businesses and try to get people back to 2nd Street, and also expose people to the, you know, the visual improvements and the structural improvements that were installed on the street. It went very well. It was last year there were booths there from, you know, farmers market and from other businesses in downtown. There was some music, there was face painting, balloon animals, just a kind of a festival type environment. And it went well, and it seemed like the businesses received it well. They thought it was a nice way to, you know, bring people downtown and drum up business, and they benefited from it. And so this year, the Downtown Chaska Business Alliance, sort of supported by the Special Service District that, you know, raises funds for them, decided, well, you know, they want to take it on and be the sponsor and go forward and do it again. And so, you know, while the purpose may have shifted a little bit, we're not grand opening a street. It is a festival. It'll be a similar format. The change this year is that they have coordinated to hold the event in tandem with the Guardian Angels Fall Festival, hoping that just creates more reason to go and sort of makes the crowd larger yet from what it was last year. So last year the event, the weather was probably in the mid-90s and super humid, and you know, you could stay outside for maybe an hour without, you know, melting. So I think that may have, you know, held back crowds a little bit, but there were still probably a couple thousand people that showed up. It's always hard to tell from an event like that because people are coming and going what the attendance is, but that was sort of the guess. This year the weather promises to be a little bit better, so hopefully, and then, you know, coordinating with the Guardian Angels, hopefully attendance is even better, so. And I think their intent is to do it, you know, into the future, and, you know, on an annual basis, so, yep.
Thank you, that helps.
Yeah.
So we'd be there just for informational purposes.
Right.
People could pick up a brochure or
Oh.
ask a question or,
Oh. And, you know, most of the vendors, or, you know, people who will be having tents and booths are, you know, more like, you know, local businesses and entertainment and that sort of thing. I think the Carver County, what is the people who do the pets, why am I blanking on their name?
Humane Society?
Humane Society, yes. I think they're gonna have a presence in a booth, so they're a little bit more, you know, like a community-type organization, maybe a little bit more, you know, like the flavor of what a Human Rights Commission-type booth would be. So, you know, the Human Rights Commission would be a little bit unique in the scope of who's gonna be there. But, you know, they're open to having you, and, you know, me hearing from you all that you're looking to get more exposure in the community, this is an opportunity to do that. So that was the reason why I've, you know, brought up the conversation. Mm-hmm.
Similar to Jen, my weekend's kind of up in the air. Plan on stopping by. I'd have to check and see if I could spend an hour there, but I'll check.
Okay. We do need to provide feedback tomorrow, you know, to the to the block party group as to the confirmation one way or the other.
Okay, so let's just assume it's only the 2 hours. Do we think it's worth it to have a booth? I guess I'm looking at Barbara for asking this question because Ellen is not here, but you were the two that volunteered, so.
Okay, and I think the fact that could volunteer early in the afternoon, when I believe there will be few people who have not been milling around. As the hours go on, there might be more people, and I just can't go then. I would have to be from 12 to 1 in order to make my other commitment. So if we were going to vote on it, I would vote that I don't think we should do it.
I'm sort of leaning that way too, just because I feel like it would be rather watered down. You know, not a real big presence for us. I mean, I hope to stop by, and when I go to community events, I always do like to talk to people about the Human Rights Commission if I get a chance to, but, and I'm willing to do that if I'm able to stop by. Maybe if a few of us can go down there, kind of learn more about it, we can plan better for next year, and know kind of what to expect, what would be good practices for next year.
Maybe we'll have t-shirts by then.
T-shirts, is that a new business?
Oh.
I didn't hear about t-shirts.
Talking about it. I'm kind of iffy on the 2 hours too. Setting up a booth and a tent and bringing everything out there, and then somebody has to bring it back.
I agree. I don't think we should do it, but I do think if people can go down there and kind of take notice of what's going on and whether that would be a good fit for us in the next, assuming they continue this every year.
And like Donzel, I wasn't there last year, but I'd like to see if it's, you know, if it's mostly shopping, like a craft fair or something, then I don't know if that would really make sense for us to be there, but taking a look at it, maybe we can get a better feel.
I agree.
yeah. Last year, they had bouncy houses. It was more of a festival environment.
Okay.
So I wonder the value also. So I think it's a good idea just to check it out for this year and then see what that brings to us next year.
Sounds like we're in alignment. I would agree
Yep.
with that, and I would certainly commit to going down there and checking it out.
Yeah.
I'll do that.
We can talk about our observations at the next meeting and.
Does it need to be a vote, or is this?
I'm hearing a pretty solid consensus that there's not really support for a booth this year. I don't think that we really need to
Did
take
you
a
have
booth,
something
a
to
vote,
say,
but
Robert?
if anyone feels strongly
No.
about doing
Okay.
that, that's fine.
Okay.
It seems like everybody's in agreement, so let's check it out and report back next month.
Great.
In our packet, there is a rough copy from Jeff Philippek of the Martin Luther King Day Breakfast. And so we're gonna talk a little bit more. It looks like he's started to get some things put in place here. I saw at the end my name, and I'm kind of nervous already about that, but any help with closing remarks would be appreciated. So, did Jeff say there is anything that he needs from us, Nate, that we really need to be kind of working on besides the Human Rights Award for sure? But does he need help in getting some other things put into place, or?
I think he's open to general feedback. When he sent this over to me, he sort of hedged in the email that he views this as a very rough draft, based on his understanding of, conversations that we've been having sort of back and forth. And so he's open to feedback. If you see that there should be changes or have ideas of additions or subtractions, or, I think he's really open to anything that you have in mind. One blank or hole that needs to be filled is that keynote speaker, and I know we've talked about a number of ideas, and I think Jeff is looking for assistance there. One idea that we have talked about, and I think I've heard a fair amount of agreement around, is the concept of having a panel of folks who could talk about homelessness and maybe their experience with homelessness personally, or maybe as a representative agency that assists with people who are homeless, or maybe it's a combination thereof. But I know that's one idea that has been put out that has seemed to be received fairly well by this group. If that's a direction that we want to go, I think Jeff is fine with that and sees value in that too. But would look for assistance in identifying those individuals and pulling that panel together, along with whoever would lead and sort of lead that discussion. Not to say that that's the direction I need to go, but that is one idea that I know I've heard from you all in the past that could be an option as a keynote type of a thing.
And to that end, Madam Chair, I have explored a couple of options with regards to having panel members. And I'm sorry that Commissioner Haga is not here tonight, but Dr. Richard Scott, I don't know if you've had the opportunity to meet him, but I think he might be a terrific person in terms of perhaps being our moderator. The Carver County Community Development is willing to, and has an idea of, actually two ideas, of residents that have experienced homelessness and through the various programs available here in Chaska or Carver County have been able to obtain housing and are more stable in their living environment as potential speakers. And then thinking that perhaps somebody from Carver County Community Development would be a good member to represent the community in terms of who is working on addressing homelessness here in Carver County, and of course Chaska. So those were my three thoughts that I was going to bring tonight to the meeting. And then and although Shepherd of the Hill Church, Reverend Seal is mentioned, I was going to suggest that perhaps there might be an opening invocation and a closing invocation, which could include the possibility of another member of our faith community. It would just be another focus point for somebody to be present at this January 21st meeting.
Commissioner Carlson, when you say that a member of the Carver County Community Development could maybe be a part of that panel, are you talking about a staff member or a board member or?
A staff member,
Okay.
I would think.
Okay.
Also, a couple months ago, we had inquired, or someone had asked me to inquire with Corey Magstead if there were any potential speakers that either graduates of launch or something like that. And Corey did have a number of people that came to mind. So that's also an option to either put on the panel or have them speak. My only question with this is Jeff taking point, or is he expecting us to take point? Because it's a little unclear to me when you say he's looking for a little bit of help. Is he looking for us to secure the speakers? Is he, because I'm assuming he kind of had it. So that, at least for me, I just need clarity on who owns what.
Sure, yep. I think Jeff views himself as, taking ownership over the event as a whole, organizing the agenda. I've helped secure the location, but, the breakfast and some of those logistics that need to occur around it.
Right.
As far as the keynote speaker or the panel, whatever shape that takes, I don't think there's a clear decision there right now. So I think, my view is that if, we feel we want Jeff to take that on, we can talk to him about that and see if that's a possibility. If someone from the Human Rights Commission is willing to be the point, I'm positive Jeff is not going to balk at that.
Yeah, I just think that.
And certainly if, if one of you feel like you want to take the lead, I'm happy to assist and help facilitate.
I just think it's
discussions
important
too.
now that we're getting them into September. I just think on every one of these items, we just need to know who owns what.
Yep.
It's just a little squishy, kind of where it is right now. So that's the only thing I would say. So I'm hoping that I see that the jazz ensemble is listed twice. I made that connection for Jeff and Mr. Beckler. I'm assuming that he's locked that down. That's why it doesn't show a question mark.
I'll get clarification because he may be making the assumption that, because of your connection that maybe you're taking that. So what I'll do is I'll call up Jeff and go through the agenda and ask that very question. Are you taking point on this? Or are you making an assumption and get clarification? And then I can report back out and, let you know whether we need to make some.
Is it a point where we need to meet with Jeff? I'm just trying to make sure that we don't let something fall through the cracks, so we don't get to the end and we're scrambling.
Yep.
And so I'm just either we got to meet with Jeff or we got to decide who owns what, and you can take that kind of as a recommendation to him.
Yep.
And for instance, also the reading, like something from Dr. King, and it says it's someone from the High School Diversity Club. Is he reaching out to them? Because if he's not, then I would be happy to do that one.
Okay.
But I don't want to double up, and then we have, two people coming at them.
Yep. So I think you're raising really good questions, and I think what makes sense would be I can have a conversation with Jeff, go through the agenda and understand, whether these things are firmed or whether they're, kind of what the status update is for those. Maybe, if there are things that are not confirmed but we're making assumptions, I can work with him, and get clarification with these groups. Between now and our next meeting in October. I think maybe another thing to do then would be to have, talk to Jeff and see if he would want to attend the October meeting.
Yeah.
Which would be a really good opportunity to
Yes.
just have that dialogue and get everyone on the same page.
And I just want to remind people to think about the Human Rights Award. Be thinking about that and to make an application.
I was wondering, Nate, if you could ask Kevin Wright, I believe he's our communications person, if he could help us make sure that, or perhaps not Kevin, but basically get something into the Herald so that the information about applications and the qualifications that one would need to have met is out there in the public eye, because I haven't seen anything at all in the paper about it. And I'm just thinking, if we're looking for submissions from the general public, they need to know about it.
So a
Now,
couple things on that. historically in the past, and Robert, you can weigh in too, because you've got that institutional knowledge, but we've typically put out a call for a solicitation for nominations about a month from the point of making a decision. So that, that solicitation goes out, people have that month to submit, and then we've got, whatever's been submitted to consider at that final meeting when a decision's being made. That's a process that's been followed in the past. I think I'm reflecting that right.
Yeah, that's right.
Now, one of the things to consider there is a cost to post, this sort of advertisement in the Herald. So if we want to do that, that's a cost that we've taken on in the past. Now, if we want to increase that, then we're increasing the cost. So I think you all would have to discuss.
Because again, this is something I could have sworn we discussed like 2 or 3 meetings ago. And
Yep.
I could have sworn we said that we did want to start the advertising earlier. That we
Okay.
wanted to do 2 months so that people had time.
Sure.
And we got the word out.
Okay.
So I just think we probably just need to make, we got the money there. I mean,
Yep.
we need to make some decisions to try to get something
Yep.
moved forward. I'm just afraid
And
we're
it
gonna get
doesn't
close
just
and
have
we're
to
gonna
be the
scramble.
Herald for like paid advertising.
No, I was
Because
gonna
the
say, it
city
could
of
be-
Chaska has done great on the Facebook page
Correct.
about letting people know about our meetings and stuff. And, so I've been noticing more and more of that. And, so I think that'd be a great cheap way to do some advertising too, because a lot of people follow the city of Chaska on Facebook,
Yeah.
so.
I think any reasonable way that we could get the word out is just fine. I mean, we need to get the word out one way or the other. In the past, Chaska Herald has worked. People read the papers, the website. I think that's good too. But before we get off the topic of the MLK Breakfast, I just wanted to make sure that, in my personal opinion, is that Jeff Philippek is and should be the point, because he is the person who initiated this event last year, and he is willing and able to continue to work on the event. So I see our role as coming alongside Jeff and supporting him and the chamber in partnership with this. But as far as who owns what or who's taking lead, I certainly support Jeff taking the point and having the say as to the structure of the program itself, since he is the person who initiated it. And I think it's only right that we should continue that.
I think that's what we're talking about as far as clarifying that with Jeff, because I don't want him to feel like it's only him that has to do the brunt of the work. As partners with him, I think the group should jump in where we can. And so where does it make sense for Jeff to use us, for lack of a better term? And if he has a certain vision for it, I think it would be really helpful if he does come to a meeting so we can discuss these kind of things rather than just guess, well, does Jeff want this or do we want this? And just talk about it, have a dialogue so that we all are on the same page.
Yeah, I don't think there's any doubt that Jeff is the point of the entire breakfast. The issue is who owns each of these items. And I think that there just may be some confusion in who's actually doing the follow-up.
Right.
Because I don't think Jeff can do all of this himself, so he's looking for help. We just need to know which ones he's got, which ones he needs help on. That's really all it is, just that kind of clarity. Back to the making sure people know about it. There is that Real Life in Chaska page. Is this something that could also be there, or is that not what that site is for? 'Cause it seems like that's another, again, free venue, a lot of people on that page. And this is something that's for the community that's coming up. Why wouldn't we leverage that as well?
I think we may have shared it on there last year. I think I did that just as like a private citizen, shared it to let people know about it.
Yeah.
So,
Be good to do it again. and number one, share the event, but also make sure that people know that, hey, there's this opportunity to nominate someone for the Human Rights
for
Award.
the award.
That's kind of what I'm talking
Oh,
about. for the
sure.
award.
I was talking about the breakfast,
Yeah,
but yeah, the
yeah.
award.
Yeah.
And make sure the deadline is very clear.
Yes.
Yeah, we can start, promoting it even more intentionally on social media. The city, kind of as a general policy, we use and own our social media page. We don't really get involved in other social media stuff. Not to say that someone can't share things that we post. So I would leave that up to, commission members
So
if you
the
feel like
city
you
Should be
want
as
to.
an
posted it.
individual, not as a commissioner, that we post stuff.
Sure, yeah, I mean, the city's page, we will post and advertise events or the Human Rights Commission Award, as we're talking about in this case. We can post that to our page, that's as far as we go.
And then we could share it
That
to
message can be
whichever
shared. Yep.
groups we want to.
Great.
Okay.
The city council member shares a lot on that page of things going on, so I'm sure.
Yeah, I saw a thing today that was like just from the city of Chaska, that they showed what Fireman's Park used to be. It was all the bricks, and, I mean, just seeing different things from around the community is a good thing, I think.
When do we think we could have this posted on the city page? Both the, is it there now?
I can make sure it's posted tomorrow,
Oh, great.
so it's not a problem. We'll get it up.
Let the marketing begin.
We'll
Both
ramp
the
it up.
award and for the breakfast, both of them? Or just the award right now?
Well, I would suggest the award is probably most ripe. The breakfast, since we've got a lot of things that we're still talking about as far as details, I mean, we could start talking about the date and the time, but we're pretty far
The
out
old
still.
save
so
the date.
Save the date.
We could do a little save the date.
Save
Yep,
the date.
yep,
That's great. And all of us can share it.
exactly.
All right.
I did want to go back to one thing about the panel. That seems like what people have shown the most interest in. We need to be aware of the time constraints of this breakfast.
Yep.
So the number of people on the panel should be pretty small, I think. And we also need to remember the reason for this breakfast is the Martin Luther King Human Rights Breakfast. So we need to, I mean, obviously it's a human rights issue for homelessness and housing.
Yep.
But we need to make sure that we're intentional about connecting it somehow to the reason that we're there for that morning.
Yep.
How much time do you think a keynote speaker would have? If it says an hour here, and the musical stuff, and the welcome, and the closing, the award, I'm just like a panel or a speaker, how much?
Usually a speaker for something like this is about 20 minutes for this type of event. And so a panel, it's, you just have to really think through how you're going to do it, or not everyone's going to get a chance to really speak.
Yeah.
So that's the only issue with panels for this tight of a window
Yeah.
in a program. So I would probably keep an open mind to panel, or if there is a really good speaker, like that Corey has or someone else has. And the way to tie it to Dr. King, remember in his later years, he was focused on the Poor People's Campaign that was all about ending homelessness.
Yeah.
So, you can, talk, and try to make, maybe the reading comes from, one of the speeches
Yes.
he did around that. That's another idea.
Where it says featured speaker, Donzel.
Oh, it does?
This is, I think, based on last year. I noticed that too when I looked at it.
Yeah.
And I didn't speak last year, so this is.
No, this is, because at the bottom it says, there's always a service at Shepherd of the Hill after
This is the
that
Shepherd of the Hill.
evening.
There you go.
And you spoke at that last year,
Yes.
so you don't,
This is
you aren't
January
booked
5th.
again
Good.
this year, are you?
Not that I'm aware of.
So we'll have to change that.
Well, maybe this is just,
This is an old one. This is from last year, or earlier this year. So it's just co-promoting the Shepherd of the Hill event. That's what this is down here.
I have a question, Madam Chair, about the breakfast. I just have not been to this event or wasn't there, I guess, last year. When it says breakfast is no cost or free will offering, What kind of breakfast is it, and does somebody have to cook it?
It's rolls. Rolls,
Oh.
coffee, juice. And
Okay,
So it's like
This is on the
continental.
page.
so it's a
Pancakes and
continental
sausage?
thing.
no,
Okay.
if you want to make them, you can. I know that you're expert at that,
I
so.
liked it. I enjoyed it last
I have a
year,
lot of
though.
pancake mix from the breakfast at your house.
So do we. So if someone wants to make them.
Yeah, last year we just did like muffins and rolls,
Yeah,
some fruit.
No one complained when they were.
No.
I think that's what they expect, something like this.
okay, great.
And then I don't remember if we even had a basket out for an
Yes, we
offering last
did,
year?
we did, because I sat at the
Okay.
table.
Okay. I mean, you should always probably have one out,
And
just in
what
case
does that
people
go
wanna.
to? The church, or it goes to whoever buys the rolls, or?
I think it went to cover the expenses of the food. I don't think there was, we'd have to ask
That
Jeff
much.
about that too.
Yeah, it was just to offset costs of the event, so,
Food
you know,
and juice.
really the food and the juice. It wasn't a windfall or anything, so I mean, we didn't really have the problem of what to do with excess in
We'll
that case.
cross that bridge if
Or
we
we
get
could
to it.
donate it to the
Can
winner
you
of the
remember how the
award.
coffee was,
What's that?
oh, we bought the coffee from Dunn's,
Dunn Brothers, I think.
They donated it last year, yeah.
so that's taken care of.
Yeah, I think that if Jeff can make it to our next meeting, that would be really helpful.
That'd be
to-
great.
Yep. Yep, and he's already told me that he's happy to come and have the conversation, so, you know, assuming his schedule is free that night, I
Okay.
would expect he'll be here, so.
Okay.
It'll be October.
All right, we'll move on to some new business tonight. As you remember, when Chief Scott Knight came to speak to us a few months ago, he had mentioned something about a Holocaust memorial exhibit. And since then, Nate has learned more about that project. And do you want to share with us a little bit about it?
Yes. So, yeah, Chief Scott Knight mentioned this when he came as his visitor presentation as something that he wanted to pursue and was going to move forward and invite this group to come to the community and hold their exhibit for people to come and interact with. And so what they do is their goal is to tell the story of the Holocaust, and they bring in survivors to hold community discussions. They bring in artifacts. They bring in you know, different readings and things that people can tour through and get familiar with the subject. And so he's gone forward. It looks like they'll be coming to the community in February of next year at the community center to hold their exhibit at the within the gallery space that's right outside the theater. And so they would be there for the month of February. And within that month, there would be, and this is still, you know, details to be determined, but a couple evenings or maybe days where there's more of a community event around that. So bringing in Holocaust survivors to come in and have a discussion, inviting people to come in and talk about, you know, just have that discussion, have some breakout sessions and workshops and things like that. That's kind of the general idea. So that would be a couple days within the month, and then throughout the month, having the exhibit there for people to come when, you know, as the community center's open and view and tour through. So that's kind of the general idea of the event. This is an exhibit that's considered a traveling exhibit, so it doesn't have a permanent home, but they do go to churches and community centers and, you know, other public spaces that when they're invited, and they'll be there. So Chief Knight's hope is that, you know, a lot of the lessons learned through the Holocaust are relevant today. There's a lot of discussion in the public about, people of different ethnicities and how they fit in the community and the value that they bring, and different cultures and refugees and the importance of that. And a lot of that ties into topics that were confronted by the Holocaust, and in a lot of ways in the wrong way by the Holocaust. Well, in all ways in the wrong way by the Holocaust. But to keep that discussion alive and the lessons learned alive, and continue to pass those messages on to the next generation. And as a police department, he feels like this is an important discussion for a police department to be involved in with the community. Because police departments oftentimes are at the very center of some of these conflicts that can arise within the community, and for people to understand that here in Chaska, we want to be a part of that conversation, and we want to be a positive part of that conversation. So that's what he's trying to sort of accomplish and facilitate there. So learning that this was all coming together in the way that it is, I had a conversation with Chief Knight about, well, could the Human Rights Commission have a role here? Could they provide some support if they want to? And what's that discussion that we could have? And he's very open to that. He thinks it would be a fantastic message to the community to be able to say, look, this is something that's being promoted and supported by both the police department and the Human Rights Commission working together. That's very much in line with the goal that he's trying to achieve by bringing this group to the community center and to Chaska. So if you're interested in that, he's open to it. And so what are some ways? One way that he thought could be is that in advertisement and promotion of the event, that you all could be active in letting people know and raise awareness, but also to be able to say on the printed material or on social media and the webs and web presence and things like that, that we've got presented by or supported by the City of Chaska Police Department and the Human Rights Commission, to put that in print on there. So if you're open to that, that's one way. Another way is that there is cost to bringing these folks in. There's about a $500 fee to bring them here and secure their time for the month of February to be present. And along with that, we are looking at some additional insurance coverage that the city may need to take on for liability, because we are going to have these irreplaceable artifacts at the community center, and should something tragic occur to those items, there's some liability that needs to happen there. So there are costs that we need to incur. I think the Human Rights Commission could entertain being a part of that. There's plenty of budget available, to cover those sorts of costs. So that's one other way that I would offer up for you guys, and that would also help. The police department is committed to this happening, so it will happen one way or the other. But if the Human Rights Commission is willing to come in and support and take on some of that cost, that frees up dollars that the police department can do for other community activities that they pursue. So, if there's any questions, I guess I'd open it up to that at this point. The thing that Mike, and it's in your packet, and that Mike brought up here on the screen, is a flyer that went out for an event that was hosted in another location. So that just kind of gives you an idea of what it is that they're bringing.
Sure. What's the date again?
The date hasn't been, specifics haven't been quite determined yet. They'll be coming out, I think, in October sometime for a site visit. So they'll go through and look at, what is the gallery or the like at the community center. They can format their exhibit around what the space provides and think about all those logistics. But they're sort of targeting February as a month right now.
Okay, so they're targeting next year.
Correct. That's right. Yep.
So if we wanted to commit some money to this as a commission, would it come from next year's budget or this?
I think we could do it either way. If we feel like we've got enough expense yet this year that we want to reserve that, in this year's budget and consider it consuming that part of next year's budget, that's an option. Or if you could split it up somehow. If you want it all to come from this year's budget, we do have, I don't recall what I said, $1,200. So the cost of this in total is $500 to secure them, and then there's probably about another $500 in that extra insurance cost that we're going to need to incur. So
I'm just gonna say, I really don't foresee in the next couple months us having any major expenses coming up. And I think this would be something that we should definitely support. And I would propose that we say we could donate the $500 to secure them, and then let the police department maybe handle the insurance side of it.
I think our next big thing would be the Martin Luther King breakfast event.
And I don't think
and
that
I
will
don't
cost
think we're gonna have an
$700.
event until then, so I think this would be a great use of, yeah.
Madam Chair, have you made a motion?
I make a motion that we should donate $500 to this project.
And then I'll second your motion.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Nobody? Okay, then it is carried, and we will offer $500 to partner with the police department.
Great. And I know Scott will be thrilled to hear, when I report back to him tomorrow, that you're so supportive of the event.
And we
So
would
thank you.
love to hear from him if he, has ideas of, if he has more questions of us to help out.
And
Let us know.
Can we also say that we're willing to co-market? Because I think there were two questions. One was the funding, the other was the co-marketing. Is that good, or do we need to vote on that? Because I'm supportive.
I'm reading that the fact that you want to spend $500 on this is that's, your name should be on the marketing material. So that's how I'm taking it, but. yeah.
Okay.
I also would be willing to volunteer at the event in any way that
Okay.
they might need help to.
Okay.
I think this was wonderful.
Yes.
Okay.
Great.
That's great to know. We haven't gotten far enough along in the planning to understand, what sort of volunteer opportunities or need there may be, but I think it's definitely feasible that there could be something, so.
Yeah, please
Great.
have
And I'll
him
keep
keep
you all
us
posted.
updated, yeah.
Great.
So contributing this $500, does this mean our name can be on the advertising along with this police?
Correct.
Okay, good.
So you'll make note of that in the notes? I mean, I know we were assuming it, but it would be good just to make sure we're thorough.
I
since
will,
both of
I will
those
make
were
sure to
requests.
make that clarification, absolutely.
Is there any other new business for tonight?
I have something, a suggestion to make with the leftover money, although it won't take that much, but I think we should get engraved nameplates, name tags to wear at events like that. And that way, when we're circling amongst people, you would be easily identified. And, we'll do it at the Martin Luther King, at this
River City Days.
thing at River City Days. I just think, and we could probably afford T-shirts too, but I'll let Lisa talk about that.
I can look into
And
that.
I'd be happy to look into the costs of it. I think it'll be minimal, but I really think it would be nice to have something that shows where we're from and that identifies us.
Is that something that the city we could get through the woman we had worked with in the city?
Yeah, we could facilitate that order. If the commission wants to move forward with those name tags, it's something that the city can order, and, we would pay for through the HRC budget.
So just have the name and Chaska Human Rights Commission on it. Do
Yeah,
something like
that could be something that could be done, yep.
Okay, well, that would be something that we would have to vote on.
I make a motion that we have the city order those for us.
Second.
All in favor of name tags?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay.
They be magnetic and not pinned.
Oh, can you check into
Oh,
that?
fancy.
If there's stronger magnets, that's
Yeah.
nice. About the holes in our shirts.
Great
In
idea.
our T-shirts.
Great idea.
We wouldn't want holes in our T-shirts.
Did you want to talk about T-shirts tonight, or?
I just thought it was great because that's something that can identify you from further away. Or if you're at a booth and people see this dart.
Well, I think
You know,
because Barbara
Human
had
Rights
one on
Commission.
at River City,
Yes,
we were all
great.
jealous.
Jealous.
Yes. I just, with the booth and the breakfast, and then hopefully we get more events started where we're a part of, I think it would be an easy way to identify us, where a name tag is great, and a t-shirt you can see from like 30 yards away.
When did you guys have the T-shirts? Do you remember?
I want to say 20 years ago, but
Oh,
So can we,
I'll try to find out this Saturday exactly the year we want them.
go to the History Center, they might know.
so can I make a motion for Lisa to do an investigation on T-shirts, bring us back what the costs are on a design? Do we need to make a motion for that? Because
I don't think you need to, but I think you just did.
I will
so,
do it.
yeah.
I will, in October, I will see what I can find out.
Okay. Well, we're gonna be identified all out in the community and wear them when you go to Target or Cub Foods, and then everyone will come talk to you about the Human Rights Commission.
So, just for formality and clarity, I think there is a motion on the table, or was that,
Yes.
okay.
I
heard a
second it.
Okay.
second.
Oh, just to look into it.
All in
Yep.
favor of Lisa looking into the T-shirts and letting us know next meeting?
Yes.
Coming back
Aye.
with pricing and designs.
Yes. I see
Aye.
designs.
Signify
And
by
our
saying aye.
colors are
Aye.
identified as green and yellow, right?
Yes.
Okay, let's try it again. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, thank you, Lisa. We'll look forward to your report. Okay, do we have any other new business? Hearing none?
I make a motion to adjourn.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Motion adjourned.
Are you
I mean, motion, meeting adjourned.